I saw Valentina gazing at Chris as she spoke. Her answer left me speechless.
This is the final episode of 3. Last time, Gianna found out who Mrs. Jones was, the woman with whom her husband, Chris, was cheating on her with. If you haven't watched the previous 2 episodes and wish to, please click the top links in the description. Otherwise, enjoy the finale.
I smiled bitterly, then replied,
Okay.
before hanging up. I finally realized how unpredictable people could be. No wonder she tried to probe me by claiming to have seen Chris. It became evident that it was because of her guilty conscience. Chris had said it had been long since he last saw Valentina. I felt heartbroken that he had deceived me like that. I invested myself in Valentina and Chris in this unfamiliar city, and they betrayed me. See, I had spent all my life in Louisiana. I only moved to Miami when I was accepted to the University of Miami. I didn't know that life in the city was this cruel. I didn't know who to trust anymore. I kept staring at the window before calling Chris. As I suspected, his response matched Valentina's. He too, of course, claimed to be in a meeting. I was outraged and decided to rush to the café to confront them, but my phone rang just as I was about to enter the café. Chris and Valentina had not seen me. I stared at my phone, Bree's name flashing on the screen. I hesitated, torn between the need to answer and the urge to confront Chris and Valentina. Finally, I swiped to accept the call, my heart racing. As I listened to Bree's voice, the background noise of the cafe faded away, replaced by the mounting turmoil inside me. I took a deep breath, fighting to keep my composure. My eyes flicked back to the cafe, where Chris leaned in closer to Valentina, the way he used to with me, his smile lighting up his face. Bree's voice was insistent, pulling me from my thoughts. I barely registered what she was saying. All I could think about was the lies, the deceit that had wrapped around my life like a vine, choking the trust I had for them both.
Gianna, I'm talking to you. I need the key right now.
I hung up, cutting her off. It was just her childish tantrums. I couldn't care less. My heart thundered in my chest as I stepped forward, the door parting open with a soft chime that felt like a death knell. Inside, Chris turned at the sound, his face shifting from surprise to confusion, then panic. He pushed Valentina's face away, and his face was full of shame. Valentina's expression mirrored his, but her eyes held something else: fear. I approached their table, my breath quickening. The air was thick with unspoken words, and for a moment, time stood still. The clinking of cups and low murmur of conversation faded into the background.
Gianna, wait.
Chris started, but I raised a hand, silencing him. Every muscle in my body felt tight as I searched their faces. I wanted them to see the hurt, the betrayal etched into my features. I was the one who had stood by Valentina through thick and thin, who had welcomed Chris into my life with open arms. And here they were, hiding behind their lies, pretending everything was normal. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? The words slipped out, laced with venom. Chris opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Valentina's eyes glistened with tears, but I couldn't afford to feel pity for her. I had trusted her, and she had chosen to betray my trust. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked out, the door closing shut behind me. The weight of their silence pressed down on me. Outside, the sun beat down, the brightness a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I felt hollow, yet filled with a rage I hadn't known I was capable of. I stumbled through the streets, my heart heavy with betrayal and thoughts of Sabrina, my daughter with Chris. She was the light of my life, and I couldn't bear the thought of her innocence being shattered by the chaos swirling around us. After confronting Chris and Valentina at the cafe, I was overwhelmed with anger, but more so with a fierce desire to protect Sabrina. She deserved a stable and loving environment, even if her parents couldn't provide that anymore. Therefore, for Sabrina's sake, I forced myself to sit down with Chris for difficult conversations in the days that followed. He was remorseful, his guilt palpable.
I never wanted to hurt you or Sabrina,
He admitted, his voice shaking as tears rolled down his face.
but I've messed up so badly.
I looked at him, torn between the hurt he caused and the man I once loved. You need to take responsibility, Chris. For her sake. We can't let this destroy her. It was clear we needed to prioritize Sabrina. We agreed to attend family therapy together, focusing on how to navigate this new reality while keeping Sabrina's well-being at the forefront. Chris moved out, but we made it a point to keep our interactions civil for her sake. Sabrina was too young to fully understand the complexities of adult relationships, but she sensed the tension. She'd come to me, her big eyes wide with worry.
Mommy, is everything okay? Why is Daddy not home?
I would hold her close, reassuring her. Everything is fine, sweetie. We just need a little time to figure things out. It broke my heart to see her worry, but I remained steadfast, determined to shield her from the fallout. I realized I couldn't ignore the impact it had on Senate Corporation, the company Chris and I had built together. Founded on a shared vision, Senate Corporation had always been a cornerstone of our partnership, but the betrayal threatened to unravel everything we'd worked for. I had started the company after coming out of college and entrusted it to Chris when we had Sabrina. After Chris's affair came to light, we both faced an uphill battle to keep the company afloat. Clients sensed the tension between us, and rumors began to circulate within the team. It was essential for us to put our differences aside and focus on the business, not just for our own sakes, but for the employees who depended on us. We decided to bring in a mediator, Antonio from the marketing department. Antonio was someone who could help with running the company despite our shared tension. This decision was difficult, but it proved to be a turning point. Antonio guided us through the tough conversations. Senate Corporation slowly managed to regain its footing. We started to secure new contracts, and our existing clients began to express confidence in our ability to deliver results. The team rallied around us, inspired by our commitment to moving forward despite the challenges. As the weeks rolled on, I found a new rhythm in my life, one that was surprisingly empowering. I was no longer just Gianna, the betrayed partner. I was a mother determined to carve a stable path for Sabrina and a businesswoman intent on saving Senate Corporation. The therapy sessions with Chris were a mixed bag of emotions. Some days, we shared breakthroughs and laughter, reminiscing about happier times, while other days left us both raw and vulnerable, facing the reality of our fractured relationship. Yet through it all, there was a common goal: our daughter. As the tension within the company eased, Antonio's guidance became invaluable. He organized weekly strategy meetings where Chris and I discussed the company's direction, balancing our personal issues with the demands of running a business. It was challenging, but slowly, we found a tentative partnership emerging, one built on respect for our shared history rather than the weight of betrayal. One evening, while poring over project proposals with Chris, I looked up and noticed a subtle change in his demeanor. He seemed more present, focused.
Gianna,
He began, hesitation evident in his voice.
I know I've made mistakes, but I want to show you that I can be better. For Sabrina, for you, and for the company. I'm committed to this.
I took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope. You have to earn that trust back, Chris. It won't happen overnight, but I'm willing to give you a chance, for Sabrina's sake. It was a start. Over the following months, we continued to rebuild, not just our company, but our relationship as co-parents. Sabrina often asked about Chris, and I made it a point to share positive stories, keeping her worries at bay. Then, one day, as I was dropping her off at school, I noticed a familiar face in the crowd, Valentina. My heart tightened, and old emotions surged up like a tide. But this time, I felt different. I had learned to channel my anger and hurt into strength. I took a deep breath and approached her. Valentina, I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. Her surprise was palpable, but she nodded. We found a quiet corner away from prying eyes, and I laid it all out. You need to understand how your actions affected Sabrina and me. I trusted you, and you broke that trust in the worst way possible. If we're going to be in the same circle, we need to figure this out. Valentina's eyes softened. Genuine remorse etched on her face.
I know I messed up, Gianna. I was selfish and didn't think about how it would affect you or Sabrina. I never intended to hurt anyone.
Intention doesn't change the outcome, I replied, but I felt a glimmer of understanding. Moving forward, I need you to be honest. If you care about Chris, then be mindful of how you approach this. Sabrina doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle. With a nod, she promised to respect our boundaries. It felt good to reclaim my power, to set the terms of engagement rather than being swept along by the currents of betrayal. As summer approached, Chris and I found a new equilibrium. Our focus on the company bore fruit. We celebrated milestones, not as a couple but as partners, cheering each other on in the conference room where our dreams had once taken flight. Then came the moment that solidified our commitment to moving forward, a company retreat. We rented a beach house for the weekend, inviting our team to relax, connect, and brainstorm. It was a chance to bond, to remind everyone of our vision for Senate Corporation. That night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we gathered around a fire pit, the crackling flames illuminating our faces. Sabrina played with the other kids, her laughter mingling with the warm ocean breeze. Chris stood next to me, his expression one of quiet determination.
We've faced challenges,
He began, staring into my eyes.
but together, we've shown resilience. Let's continue to build something amazing, not just for ourselves, but for our families and our community.
His words resonated, igniting a renewed sense of purpose among us. We shared stories, laughter, and dreams under the stars, leaving behind the shadows of the past. In the weeks that followed, the business thrived, but more importantly, so did Sabrina. She often ran into the office, bringing her smile and joy, reminding us why we fought so hard. As I watched Chris with her, my heart softened. He was stepping up, taking responsibility, not only for his mistakes, but for our family. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace settling over me. We were rebuilding, brick by brick, a foundation stronger than before. I would protect my daughter and pursue my dreams, no matter the hurdles. Miami, with all its challenges, had become the setting of my journey. And as I looked out at the ocean, I knew I was finally ready to embrace whatever came next.
Wow, now that's what I call a happy ending. Despite all she faced, she managed to put aside her anger and resentment for her husband and for her daughter's sake. Sometimes, guys, it's always good to forgive and give a second chance, just as Gianna did. Don't let anger and bitterness spoil your life entirely. If you enjoyed Gianna's story, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't, please. Ever wondered what it's like to be in a toxic relationship? Check out this story to understand what I'm talking about. Thanks for watching.